This video is continuation of the previous video, TDD in Mule using MUnit 2.0. So previously we wrote two unit test cases and both of them for invalid customer ID being passed. Okay, so now we'll move ahead and we'll try to return back the list of products depending on the prime status of the customer. So let's start with a test case. I'll Now this time let's use a set event to actually pass a, what do you say, a customer ID in query params. So I'll use a set event. Okay, then I'll use a flow reference. I won't use a requester. I would use a flow reference this time. You can also use a requester, but when you use a requester you don't need this set event, because now since I'm not using the requester, the source point would be mocked, and for the same purpose I would need set event. Next is assert. Okay, so first let's get rid of this error. Okay, and now here we need to set the event. So what am I interested to set? I want to set query params, and query params are the part of attribute. Okay, so to set the query params, let's see how we can set it. If we go to the listener and if we check the output, we can see query param is an object, right? So how are we going to do this? Make sure that you start off with a data view. Now open up curly braces, and since query params was an object, JSON object, so what we'll do is query params colon, now add it in an object. I've misspelled query parameters, let's correct it. Then id colon, the id is let's take the case of prime customer. So the prime customers are id 2 and 3. Okay, so let's go with the id 2, and remember it should be in a single inverted quote. Otherwise it would fail. Okay, so we have set the query parameters using this set event, and what do we want to assert? Now since we have selected prime customers, I already have the sample of prime products, so we'll copy and paste it in some file from where we can read it. Okay, so let's go to resource and add a new file. Prime products. Okay, so let's paste. So this is the sample output that we are expecting. Now let's use this. equal to read URL, and let's mention the location of the file in class path and its name. Okay, so it's done. Now this test case should fail. Okay, let me turn off this test cases. Later on we'll turn all of them on, but for this test case, let's just focus on this particular test case, because previous two are passing, only the third one now we have to work on. So now let's run and see what's the output. It should fail, obviously. So the test case has failed, but there appears to be some other value, other error, right? This is not the error that we were expecting. It says that, okay, attribute expression must appear on element MUnit tools assert that. So what it's complaining is, I have forgot to assert this expression. What is supposed to be assert? I have to, this is the actual value and it has to be a payload. Now this should be fine. Either way it's going to fail, but just the right failure that we are expecting. It should be an assert error. Assert error, or okay, so there would be an exception thrown, so it won't be an assert error but instead an exception. Yeah, so it has failed, right? And the reason for failure, see, an error occurred, right? So the error that was thrown, it prevented it from coming to this assert that. So that's fine. Now we'll put some logic so that the test case would pass. So because now the customer is either a prime or non-prime, let's add a choice route. Okay, but before adding choice, we need to retrieve a value called prime or non-prime, right? Because depending on that, we are going to route. So let me add this raise error to default, in case if you don't find anything, it's an error. Okay, now let's add a transform. Okay, and let's create a variable out of it, and the variable would be prime, having the status y or n. Now So I want the output as y or n. So let me just explain what exactly would be the structure. So this is the structure of the payload that would be coming when queried through the users table. So somewhat like this: prime y, okay, uppercase y, right? So let's see how can we fetch the value. Now if you see, there's this is an array, right? And we are sure that every time there's gonna be only one value. So I'll select payload of 0 dot prime. So just to ensure it's working fine or not, I'll use this d instead, just to know if it is working or not. So yes, we got y, and y is converted to a string value, right? So this is how you can, during the runtime, during the development phase itself, you can check how things are working using this good utility of preview. And just add a variable. This is the sample data that's gonna come in the payload. So let's delete it and instead place a payload over here. So yeah, this is a payload. So we have set the variable prime, and now we are going to use this variable. So let's set this when condition when the variable is yes, that is if the user is prime. So let's var dot prime equal to single quote uppercase y. So if he is a prime customer, the flow would be directed here. So what do we want here to happen? We want a select palette to get the list of prime products, right? Connector configuration, database config, select star from products. I hope the name is correct. It's products. Yeah, it's products, where prime equal to y. Okay, now I'll have to add a transform, because this is going to be an object, right? So let's add a transform and return a JSON. Okay, so I think we are good to go over here. Let's see, let's run and see what happens. But before that, let's just ensure that we have a prime customer. So in the set event, the attribute should be okay, id2, and the second customer, the customer with id2 is prime. So we should expect a list of prime products. Okay, let's run and see. We already have a red, now we convert into green. So the test case has passed. Now the next thing we have to do is for the non-prime customers, right? So let's do the same for non-prime customers. It's just that we have to add one case for non-prime as well, right? So let's add a new test case. First we'll make it red and then we'll make it green. The same thing, we should add the set event. Just copy and paste it. The only thing that we need to do is change the ID, because this time we are looking for a non-prime customer. So the non-prime customer is the customer with ID 1. So that's it. Then add a flow reference. And then assert. Not equals. Okay. So just configure this. The set event is complaining about something. Let's see. Everything is fine over here. Just control S and the error should go away. I'm not sure why is it complaining. Let's just copy and paste it. Let's try. No, didn't work. The moment I put 1, it gives error. Okay, anyway, let's try what happens. Assert that. Let me fix this. Read URL. It should be non-prime products. Okay, so let me add a new file named non-prime products. I'll copy this name. And here is the list of non-prime products that would be coming. Okay, now let's run. I'll ignore this test case for the time being. Yeah. So in this case, since there is no flow reference present, it's going to go to the default condition, right? So, and in default there would be an exception thrown, and this test case will fail. Yeah, so the test case has failed, but let's see what happened. Okay, so it didn't fail because of the flow, but it failed because of the compile time error that set event was giving. It's saying that expression parsing failed. The expression, okay, is invalid. But why is it invalid? Same thing works over here, but it doesn't works in this. Let's just delete this and try again. Set event. What we want is query params. And in that's an ID, and the ID value is 1. Okay, I hope this would work now. And now it's not even complaining about it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it failed, but let's see if it is okay. Now the reason is correct. Now it's an error that has occurred, and let's just confirm it. Yeah, correct. So I'm not sure that was some sort of a bug because I copied the exact same thing, but when I wrote it manually, it did work. And the ID is 1 right over here. Let's just verify. Yeah, the ID was 1. So not sure, that could be some sort of bug, but it's okay. We'll we'll add one more choice condition for prime non-prime customer. So let's go to this when where start prime equal to n. Okay, so when it's n, it goes here. Let's add transform. Okay, now let's add a query. Select star from products where prime equal to n, because this is for non-prime customers. Okay, configuration. Yeah, so now it's fine. Now let's try to run. Yeah. So now it has come to the green phase. The test case has passed. Okay, but I want to refactor this code because this piece of code looks redundant to me, because it's doing the same thing, just that it's a matter of fact that the value is changing. Other than that, there's no change. We are using the same, we are using two routes for doing the same thing. Okay, so what we can do is, let's just get rid of this. I don't want this. Okay, and let's change the condition. If vars dot prime is equal to y, or maybe we can add let's see, is not equal to, if it's not blank. Okay, but before that, let's see what happens if, okay, let's just java where d, what happens if there comes a blank payload like empty array, which would happen when invalid customer ID has been passed. So what would happen? Let's check that. So d of 0 dot prime. So we are going to get null, right? So let's change this condition. Is not equal to null. Okay, as long it's not equal to null, we are good to go. Let's go back to this transform and okay. So if it's not equal to null, it has to come over here. And what we can do over here is we can use that value vars dot prime. So it would be y or n, and then it should work. So a small refactoring and our code looks a bit better than the previous one. Let's try it. Let's try to run the test case. Okay, so it failed again. Let's see. Parameter null was not bound for query select star. Okay, we received a null. Okay, I'm not sure why this prime was evaluated to null. But it was not null. If it was null, it should have not entered here. Okay. Let's try to debug. Let me add a breakpoint. It didn't even stop. Not sure, even the breakpoint is not working. So the debug is, I'm not sure, the debug didn't work. We didn't receive any step over or step in. But let's try to see. Parameter null was not bound for. Okay. Okay, I think I've realized what the error is. So we have got the value in logger, right? Yeah, so the value is coming in, but somehow it's not working in this select. And okay, so I think okay, this is the problem. So in this this would not work. Hash varus.prime, we have to use a placeholder for the same, like the way we did in this select, right? So this is the right way to do it. Let's select, let's use a placeholder prime. Then let's fix this. Prime colon, so it's vars dot prime. So I hope it will work now. Should work. Let's see. It failed again. Now it was not able to, okay, get this prime. Hmm. Let's just copy this whole thing and see. There could be some typing error that I might be making. Where's dot? Okay. Now let's try to run. Should work this time. So as you can see, it has worked successfully. There would have been some typo that I might have made, but yeah, it's now working. So what we did is we failed the test case and then passed the test case, and then we refactored it so that it the logic looks better, right? We have improved the logic. So now there are a few other things that have been left, because now since we are accessing the database, and in real scenarios for test cases you don't have a database, so it's necessary to mock those database. So but since the video is running long, I'll stop it over here. I'll continue the same in next video, wherein we'll see how we can add mocks and spy to our code and improve the test cases. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.